This is the official SuperCoach NRL podcast, Game Day Preview.
Hello, SuperCoaches. Welcome to our Game Day Preview podcast. It's round 24, second week of the head-to-head finals. So it's sudden death if you're playing this week. It's also only 4 weeks until we crown the overall champion, who of course takes home $50,000 tax-free. Which brings me to our guest, Mark Barnes, who is currently second in SuperCoach, only 8 points off the lead. First of all, congratulations. Second of all, how are the nerves?
Thanks, Tom. Nerves are pretty bad. It's normally pretty fun this time of year because you're just in your head-to-heads getting annoyed with that stuff. And yeah, it's not as stressful. And normally I don't really mind if I don't have many trades left at this point in the year. But yeah, very stressful. Lose sleep at night.
I was going to say, any sleepless nights?
So many. I can't even talk about it. Like last week, my wife was like, "Oh, do you have a good sleep last night?" No, I dreamt that Teddy scored 400 points and I took the captaincy off him. Lost the title by 2 points. And
wow.
There's some pretty common ones.
Well, the stress is real and it's a really good fight. So we've got 8 points between first and second. And it's about, 200 points between the top 10?
I don't remember it being so close. Third is actually tied. Like the third and fourth teams are tied on points. It's the tightest run in history.
So, I mean, one pod, one captaincy choice could absolutely decide who gets the $50,000. Speaking of pods and guys to get on, the Roosters have an incredible run home. You're a Roosters fan, yeah?
Sure am.
And so they've got this amazing run home. Pods galore in that team. First of all, Angus Crichton, most purchased player this week. Not a pod, obviously. Is he a must-have?
Pretty close. I'm not going to go full must-have tag on him, but I think it's a pretty close one. The reason I won't go full must-have is because I think that it's quite team-dependent at this point of the year. I have seen some teams that go, I'm getting Angus Crichton in, but they've already got like 5, 6 elite second-row forward guns, and they've only got like 1 or 2 trades left. And for those teams, it's like, well, maybe instead of running 4 centre wings, you might want to get an extra centre wing instead of 7 second-row forwards. But he's a great trade this week against that Parramatta edge, and with how he's been playing pretty quiet lately, which possibly means he's due for some tries. Yeah,
well, speaking of centre wings who you could get in, Joey Manu is quite popular this week, but still in pod territory, only in 12% of teams. Of course, the reason for that is that they had the bye recently, plus he had that hand injury. Thoughts on him as a pod? With that run home, you'd have to think that... and his price as well. He's at the lowest price he has been all year.
Yeah, I'll just say outright before I rubbish Manu that I think it's a good trade, everyone, okay? So I'm not saying it's not a good trade. I think it's a good trade and it's a tremendous value. So certainly if there's teams that are cash-strapped, it's great. The little caveat I'll throw in there, though, with Joey Manu is, as we know, as a centre, he's never really scored this well before. And he's averaging 73 on the year. It only includes 1 game at fullback. If you look at his strike rate, Tommy, he's actually scored 10 tries this year on a strike rate of 0.58 tries per game. That's his best ever. His best ever season was 11 tries, but a strike rate of only 0.48 tries a game. Right. So there is a worry with the numbers that his try scoring isn't going to keep going like it has been this year. And you might only get 60s. It's not going to be bad, but maybe temporary expectations to know that could be an outcome with him. And he could be 17% owned in a couple of weeks' time.
Right, well, some good intel there from the Roosters fan, the bloke coming second in SuperCoach, because I would not have thought of that, to be honest. Tedesco, thoughts on him? He's popular this week, had the bye last round. So I think a lot of SuperCoaches who have trades, and I wish I did have more, probably sold last week and then bring him back in again this week for that good matchup against the Eels. It's at Allianz Stadium, which he loves, and could even be a captaincy option this week.
Yeah, definitely. I love Teddy this week, and I have to say the numbers on him aren't as good as what I thought that they were going to be for the Parramatta Eels. In the last few years when he's played 80-minute games, aside from his last game last year, he struggled to average 60 points against the Eels, which I was really surprised about when I was looking at it. But the last game of last year was around the 130 mark against the Eels, and like you said, he loves Allianz Stadium. So I tend to think, despite the Eels' good form recently, he's a huge captaincy option this week.
What about Zach Lomax? Thoughts on him? Because he is the most popular player this week. About, let's say, 100k more expensive than Joey Manu. But it's Zach Lomax. He's just been on fire this year in that centre wing position. Good matchup this week against the Titans in Wollongong. gets a little bit tougher from there. But still, what are your thoughts on him?
Well, 3 of the 4 Dragons' remaining games are at home. 2 at Wollongong, 1 at Cogra. And traditionally they're going to be quite good there and they're pushing for a spot in the top 8. He's leaving. He's going to be wanting to make an imprint on the Dragons jersey before he retires it. I really like Lomax. The goal kicking gives him a really good floor and he's already got great base and power already. And talk about ceilings, he's already got a 170 plus point game this year. So I absolutely love him at the price, and also at the ownership level, he's not heavily owned. I would actually like him over Manu just because he's got that goal kicking, and he's probably, unlike Manu, who's got to share the SuperCoach points around, in that Dragon side, he doesn't really have to as much, does he?
Yeah, if you've got the extra 100k, then I'd absolutely be going Lomax ahead of Manu. Goal kicking, as you say, and no chance of getting rested, really, whereas Manu could be, and a lot of the Roosters could get rested in the run home. Big, very exciting SuperCoach news this week. So the most common question we get on this podcast is, where can I get the merch? Where can we get this? We've got the hat that Mark's wearing, the ball just behind me here. Where do we get them? And we have our first ever merch drop this week. It is at the Roosters v Eels game at Allianz Stadium this Friday. It is free merch. The first 50 people who rock up to the event get free merch, get a lucky dip of the best merch that is there. A lot of people on social media have been hanging out for the location, the exact location, and I can exclusively reveal on this podcast right now that the location is, it's 6 p.m. at the entertainment quarter, so a couple of 100 metres away from the entrance to Allianz Stadium. It's out the front of the pub there, which is called the Watsons. Essentially across the road from the Horton Pavilion, there's a massive tree out the front there. Free merch for the first 50 people who get there this weekend, which is huge.
Great giveaway. Fantastic quality, everyone.
They actually are really good quality. AS colour, very good. Questions, send those through, guys. We'll get to them in a second. Let's do the burning issues for tonight. Panthers v Storm, top of the table clash. It's a really, really good one for tonight. In terms of the late mail, Dylan Edwards cleared, James Fisher-Harris cleared. So 2 big ins for the Panthers. But Coach Ivan Cleary has done a bit of a Bellamy on us and named them on the extended bench. He hasn't said who's dropping out of the squad. He hasn't put Edwards in the number 1 jersey or Fisher-Harris in the prop position. We don't quite know who's going to drop out. I would say my prediction is that Dane Laurie goes to the bench for Edwards, and I'm not sure who drops out for Fisher-Harris.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think that we'll see Laurie come out. I've seen a little bit of rumblings where people have said maybe Taruva comes out and Laurie stays on the wing because of his form. I don't see that happening. I think that Laurie will go on the bench. I think they need that bench utility there. And probably the biggest changes, I think Edwards coming in is massive for them, as well as what Laurie's played. But even bigger is I just think that JFH into the forward pack is huge because, as we know, they've lost both their edge back rowers. So they need that strength in the pack again, and he just provides such leadership and such go forward for them. I think he's probably really underrated in his inclusion.
Send through your questions and comments, guys. Lots of reaction already to the merch drop coming this Friday, 6 p.m. at the entertainment quarter right next to Allianz Stadium, if you missed that news. Boo, when are we going to get the Queensland merch drop? When are we going to get a New Zealand merch drop? Everyone just wants a piece of this merch.
You go around the world, Tommy.
Yeah.
Go every country. SuperCoach everywhere.
Yeah, mate. Equatorial Guinea, SuperCoach.
There'll be a PNG team soon, mate. They'll be loving it over there.
I'd be happy to do that. Take a SuperCoach question here. Most people are talking about the merch. Dom Young. Thoughts on Dom Young this week? He's actually, because they had the bye and he had that injury issue, he's actually a pod compared to what he has been in the past this season.
His ownership level is definitely a lot lower. And I think it's something like 31% of the top 1% own him still, which it's high ownership, but it's nowhere near the highs that we've seen of Dom Young in the past. And he's actually coming into a point where he hasn't been as good as what he has been at other points of the season where he scored 150 plus in SuperCoach points, and he's got a mad draw coming up where the next 4 weeks he could carve. So I absolutely like him, and I think that it's a really good example, Tom, of where if you've got trades left at this point in the season, you can really carve up the SuperCoach rankings and your head-to-heads, because being able to go some really fancied centre wings out to a Dom Young is probably a luxury trade for a lot of teams, but it's probably one that's going to pay off pretty big.
Our final question for now, we've got, would it be mad to play Brian Kelly this week against the Dragons instead of trading him to a Rooster? Kelly's an underrated Supercoach player, isn't he? And it is against Dragons, which is it's a decent matchup, let's face it.
It is a decent matchup. I guess a lot of it's going to depend on how much you think last week's results are going to come into this round. Are the Titans really going to be that bad again? Or are they going to bounce back like we do see teams do? Are the Dragons going to be able to stand up, or are they going to fold like we see them do probably too often for Dragons fans in recent years? Brian Kelly, I think, had a lot more value when he was goal kicking. Campbell's got that now, so he loses that. And for me, he's probably got too many 60s and 70s without the 100 pluses. So I would trade him to a Rooster if I had the chance to. But it really is team dependent too. How strong is the rest of that centre wing?
Or even go to Lomax in that exact same clash. Yep. Nathan Cleary, very popular vice captain this week. Would you give him the C though? Couldn't
straight C. The statistics on straight C Thursday night games are horrendous. Yeah. They are the worst averaging captain by a mile. Any Thursday night game, doesn't matter your name, doesn't matter the jersey, doesn't matter the matchup. So I think VC looks good, but I will even say with the VC, Nathan Cleary's average against the Storm is 61 points per game. It's his second worst average in the entire league. He's only got 1 ton, which is 103, and that happened at the end of last year, so he has struggled against the Storm. So a VC seems safe to keep up with the masses in case he goes big, but a C just seems way too risky, especially in a week with so many other options, Tom.
Yep, definitely VC on Cleary for me in what is a tough matchup, which brings me to Casey McLean. I've been playing him in my 17. Very popular cheapie, and he's been doing pretty well, but tough matchup against the Storm tonight. I'll be leaving him out.
100%. I don't think there's any way anyone has the lack of depth where they're playing Casey McLean against the Storm. The Storm have actually given up more points than what we kind of expect them to at times this year, and have been a little bit disappointing here and there. But Casey McLean had 22-point outing in 80 minutes last week, and he's averaging 49 points across his first 5 NRL games, which includes 2 tries, which is a good strike rate for a centre. So I don't know how you can expect a 60-plus game for the first time against the Storm. I'd be benching him.
One guy who I'm considering playing, though, even though it is a tough matchup, is Liam Henry, who's got a really good... When he plays big minutes on the edge, he has really good Supercoach average, up in the mid-60s, almost around the 70 mark. So if you're looking to bank someone early on a Friday, I'm kind of tossing up not playing Marzu and going with the surety of Liam Henry.
Yeah, it's a really good one if you've got Henry, because he's gone 76 and 73 points in his 2 edge games where he's played 70 to 80 minutes this year. And one of those he had 80 in raw base.
Yeah,
he actually downdated to 76 because of his errors. But
60 tackles or something one of those weeks.
So, I mean, he's just been a beast on the edge. So, I mean, you can expect his work rate's going to get him a 65-plus score. And if that happens, he's a pretty strong play, especially when he's got that upside of the 75 to 80 range just on work rate. So, yeah, he's a good play. As always, and I'll be saying this too much whenever we talk, it's very team dependent. But I think a lot of teams at front row forward could use him.
Eli Katoa. So after the 24-hour cuts, the Storm is still 1-17. So it looks good that Eli Katoa will play tonight. Cameron Munster. He's been talked up a fair bit as a pod, but the Storm have looked really clunky since he came back into the team. I know that it's Cameron Munster and he will just flick a switch at some stage. Will it be tonight against the Panthers? Very good opposition at the Panthers' home ground.
I don't think it will be. No. I really like the Panthers tonight. And it's one of those games as well where I think that Munster might struggle, and I think that the Storm could even struggle if they don't turn up. So, yeah, I don't love it. But where I will support the Munster purchasing is, to me, sometimes a pod purchase is also what else you get out of it. And what you get out of it is a $510,000 bargain. You know, you can get 100 to 150K downgrade or even more from a Campbell if you want to go down, and use that money to get a Sean Lane to an Angus Crichton or something. You know, if that's your team build and what you've got there, then that's where a Munster purchase becomes really beneficial. But you need to have the trades there, you know, to use that money. I wouldn't just be going a straight swap like Dylan Brown to Munster with your last trade or second last trade. It's probably just a wasted trade if you're doing that.
Our code deal at the moment is an absolute ripper. So it's $1 for the first month. Give it a test out while the SuperCoach finals are on. just give it a crack. You get all the articles, all the projections, vice captaincy percentages, player ownership percentages. There's so much stuff in there. What people average at certain venues against certain oppositions. There is so much in there with SuperCoach Plus, and it's $1 for the first month. So I think you would be mad not to try it out. It is time for our best bet of the week, brought to you, of course, by the Tabs NRL Same Game Multi. Build smarter same-game multis using stats and insights. Download the Tab app today. Now, my one, I reckon Manly are going to absolutely dominate against the Warriors this weekend. Warriors have been they've been okay, but they've conceded a lot of points, particularly in that Dolphins clash over the weekend. Plus, it's at 4 points. So I've got Manly to win by 14, Turbo to score a try, and Jason Saab to score a try as well, paying $3.50.
$3.50. I've gone for a bit more of a Hail Mary than Tommy. So
yeah, I'm always safe, but my ones get up more often than not.
I'll dedicate my one to the Baha men who let the dogs out. Great tune from a while back. So let's go Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Minus 5.5 point line. Love it. Kick out a score anytime. And I tell you, he hasn't scored for a couple of weeks. We haven't gotten a Jacob Carraz try for a couple of weeks now. So I'd like him to score in the first 3.
Yep.
And then Burton to kick 8 points of goals, and for that you're going to get $19.
$19, wow.
Kick our score.
Very good.
Carraz first 3, minus 5.5 dogs. Burton kick your goals, and we're away at 19-1.
I'm pretty sure you've won at least a couple of your bets when you've been on the show this year as well.
60% of the time works all the time, Tom.
Well, the only place to place those bets is, of course, on the Tab app. What is gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call that number on screen or visit the website. So, on to pods. Very important at this point of year because it can be that leg up that wins you your head-to-head final or wins you 50k in your case. Pod of the week for you. Who are you thinking?
Well, I've got to say that everyone's going to laugh at me that knows me because I do perpetuate a running joke about this strapping old winger who's around 6'6" tall and plays for the Roosters. Daniel Tupou.
Tupou, yes.
Okay, you're going to pay about $630k for him. I haven't mentioned him on the official show here very much at all, so it is Tupou's time. He has scored 3 doubles this year, and he normally averages between 15 and 20% of his games getting doubles, actually. And he's already got 14 tries this year in 18 games. His last ton this year, Tom, 108 points versus the Parramatta Eels. Who's he got this week? Parramatta Eels at Allianz Stadium.
Nice.
So he's gone 108, 99 and 131 in his 3 big games this year with doubles. I'm expecting a double this week. 3% ownership overall, but if you're in the top 1%, 1% owned for Daniel Tupou with a great 4-week run home.
Okay, there you go. That's not a bad shout there. Mine is Fletcher Myers, who's been pretty impressive since he came in for the Rabbitohs. Young gun who's kicking goals and he's fast. He outran Ryan Pappenhausen over the weekend. I know Paps had some injury issues, but still, that's no mean feat. And if you're looking to free up cash, he is definitely the guy. I wouldn't be nuffing out at this time of the year because we will be getting restings over the final few weeks, and you may need to bring him into your 17, at which point the Rabbitohs actually have some decent matchups as well. So don't nuff, go to Fletcher Myers instead. For the no-go zone, what's the move this week that you're not liking? A popular move that you don't like?
The top 10 most popular trades at the moment, we've got a forward in there, Max Plath, who has been killing it. You know, he tonned up on the weekend. He scored 90s the week before. He's got a 3-round average of 90s, I think it is at the moment. And it makes complete sense when you're looking at it. His numbers have been great lately. He's a hard worker. I don't like it. He's edging towards $700,000 in cost now. And he's in a second row forward position stacked. We've got 6-7 guys that are all elite at the moment in the second row forward spot, many of them with good draws. And he's been getting attacking stats lately, scored a try on the weekend for his ton. Plath's not going to do that much. And I just think in the last month of the season, there's better investments to make, even if it is in your second row forward. I guess
a lot of people with Plath are probably buying him at the 5'8" position. He's still available there, isn't he?
Yeah, it might be a bit of that. But then what upside do you want from your halves, though? You know, that's the big thing, because you don't want a base guy to go 65 across the last month of the season. Yeah,
I kind of like Plath. I know he's expensive, but he's just always sniffing around. You're guaranteed 50 tackles, and he's just always sniffing around. I don't hate it, to be honest. My no-go zone is selling Greg Marju. Very popular sell this week. I'm just going to sit him this week because it's a tough matchup against the Sharkies at Shark Park. So I don't think he goes particularly well this week. But then they've got a pretty good run home from there where he could score. Ponga, we all thought that Marziu's scores would go through the roof when Ponga came back, but it's the other winger who's been cashing in on the other side, who's an absolute weapon in Fletcher Sharp, who could be a little bit of a pod himself. But Marziu will be staying in my team, not in the 17, and then he can be a play for the final couple of rounds.
Yeah, so like one thing that I would say with the Marziu trade outs at the moment is I think that it's a lot based on last week's points. And last week, I think that, we've obviously got Sharp scoring 4 tries, but Ponga just kept lobbing it over there. It was an intentional game plan to smash the Tigers' left-hand side. There's no other way around it. That's where they went all day. It hasn't been like that every single week where Marziu's gotten that little ball. So I tend to think that that's going to turn around in the coming matchups against some weaker opposition.
He still had something like 17 or 18 runs, not his usual amount of tackle busts, which is why his score was down. But, it's Greg Marziu. You're going to get some decent base from him. And hopefully Ponga's better side is probably the left anyway. So hopefully he'll be getting some meat pies in the run home and the Knights have to win. So I don't think Ponga will be getting arrested, and I think Marziu can hopefully get a try or two in those last few games.
It's also his value too. Like, what are you going to get for 520,000 if you don't have a huge amount of bank? And I'm not liking some of the options with final trades at the moment, which I think could probably be better served.
Captaincy. The numbers are interesting this week. Tom Trbojevic is the most popular at 43%. Nathan Cleary, a lot of people are avoiding as the straight C. We spoke about it before. Only 18%. For me, it'll be Tommy Turbo against the Warriors at 4 Pines. I can't not do it, to be honest. I'd love to VC him and Captain Tedesco, but of course they're in the same position, so they can't do it.
Yeah, we're going to have to change that in SuperCoach next year, I think, Tom. I agree with you. I'd have to VC Cleary. I do think that you could go away from VC Cleary based on the numbers, and I don't think that that's suicide to do that. But Turbo and Teddy, that's going to be the question for SuperCoaches this week. I think both are really, really good options. And when I say really good options, I'm completely torn. I agree with you about 4 Pines, Tom, but I'm leaning towards Teddy at Allianz. Haven't decided yet, but Teddy at Allianz, I just have a feeling about him. And I told you, I had nightmares, for a week that I left the C off him and he scored 400 points.
So that's affecting me.
I'm going to have to think about it. I think both of those are really the prime options this week.
Well, what a night it would be if you pick up some free merch at our merch drop, 6 p.m. at the entertainment quarter right near Allianz Stadium. Then you rock into the game, you captain Tedesco, and he comes out and cracks 150. What an evening that would be. Moving on to questions till the end of the show. Bring home that crown, Barnesy. There's lots of love for you on here. Thoughts on Marziu to Lomax?
Well, mate, you just said don't trade him.
Yeah, I know. But Lomax
that's a pretty
Lomax
good trade.
Is the best guy to bring in, I think.
Yeah, I think particularly if it's a team that's not going to play Marziu this week, or you have to play him and you don't think it's a good matchup, I think it's a really good trade. I do like holding Marziu. I do agree with what Tom said, but with everybody that you think is a good hold, there's always a team move that might be worth doing, and I think that is worth doing. I think that Lomax over the last month of the season is going to score more than what Marziu is.
Yeah, he's pretty expensive, but he's actually at a good price for him compared to what he has been this year. Cody Walker or Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow for last reserve. Hammer was quiet on the weekend in a game that there was a lot of attacking stats in, so I feel like he could be kind of due for one this week.
I think he's due for one. I think the problem is that with Hammer, he could get a double and score 70.
Yeah.
Likewise for Cody Walker, he's probably going to need 18 try assists to ton up this year the way it's going. But it's I'm all over Cody Walker. I'm sorry, Tigers fans, but if a team's playing you, I want a piece of it. And Cody Walker is the guy that's going to get those assists, Tom. He's going to get those attacking stats. I reckon he's good for a try this week, Cody, and I really like him at lower ownership level too. So I'm playing Cody.
And the final question. Luke Brooks as a pod. Now, I've really liked watching the Manly attack recently because there's just so many spots all over the field where they can attack from. A lot of the defence goes to Tommy Turbo, where that just means DCE gets freed up or Luke Brooks gets freed up. And he's been in really good form recently. And he's actually been organising that team, and they've been using DCE more as an instinctive player. Yeah,
so I'm going to give the compliment sandwich here. I agree with you that he has looked a lot better, and I think that he's helped Manly quite a bit. My problem is that SuperCoach doesn't give out points for organising or better half play, and that's the issue for me with Brooks. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. Don't care how good the draw is. He could have near a man of the match performance and struggle to get to 60 points. So I think that he will play well in the next month. I don't think he'll be a good SuperCoach option, especially compared to what else you could do with that trade.
Well, that is it for our preview podcast. Massive good luck to you, Barnesy, on the way home. I hope you can bring home the 50K. Get to our merch drop at the Entertainment Quarter, 6 p.m. before that Roosters game this weekend. And good luck. Catch you later.
Thank you very much.